It's Tuesday, July 4. In the headlines, Youth Summer Employment Program launched. In business news, BOJ expects inflation to continue above target range. Regionally, Caricom Day in Barbados. Internationally, China announces export restrictions on microchips. And in sports, CWI Rising Stars Championships begin. This is the news on PBC Jamaica. I'm Simone Absalom Gale. $6,500 young Jamaicans are participating in the Youth Employment Summer Program. Speaking at this year's program launch, Minister of Local Government and Rural Development Desmond McKenzie said they will be contributing to the country's development. He says cohorts in the past have contributed to data analysis for his ministry, which resulted in the reduction of debts.
It was because of the work of the YSEP workers that the government was able to say to the Jamaica Public Service Company, what you are charging us for street lights and the information that you are giving us on street lights, we can question whether or not it is correct because of the work of the YSEP workers. And that was why we were able, 4 years ago, to wipe off the $7 billion that was owed to the Jamaica Public Service Company on streetlights.
Minister McKenzie says the ministry's JPS bill has been in good standing since then. On the other hand, he noted concerns about the response time of the JPS to repair and replace streetlights.
There are areas of concerns that we have about the response time of a JPS to install new lights, to carry out repairs to lights across the municipalities. And we'll be engaging again the Jamaica Public Service Company to raise our concerns because we wipe off the debt in good faith, and we are expecting the Jamaica Public Service Company to return the good faith that was extended by this government.
Before ending his remarks, he urged the youngsters to use the program as a learning experience as they prepare to enter the world of work.
You would be surprised to know that since this program started in 2016, more than 100 YSEP workers have gained permanent employment in municipalities across the country.
The World Health Organization, the Pan American Health Organization, and the government of Barbados have agreed to reaffirm political commitments for non-communicable diseases and mental health by raising awareness of the challenges and possible solutions to scale up multi-sector actions on NCDs and mental health, to stimulate increased domestic action and international cooperation, and to agree on specific actions that will operationalize commitments expressed in an outcome document negotiated by Small Island Developing States, SIDS. Following a conference to discuss the issues, an outcome document was produced. Ambassadors Luke Danivolu from Fiji and Ambassador Matthew Wilson from Barbados presented the 2023 Bridgetown Declaration to the WHO Director General. They explained that the document was divided into 3 parts.
The first is the 2023 Bridgetown Declaration on NCDs and mental health, which is intended to be the main plank of the outcome of this ministerial conference. The declaration serves as a catalyst towards fostering greater commitment by and support to SIDS in addressing NCDs and mental health conditions.
Ambassador Donivolu says the second part is annexed to the declaration and lists concrete actions to accelerate progress on the prevention and management of NCDs and mental health conditions.
And the third is Annex 2 to the declaration, which is the background document that sets the foundation for bold and concrete whole-of-systems action in addressing NCDs and mental health.
Smoke from all cigarettes, natural or otherwise, has many chemicals that can cause cancer and toxins that come from burning tobacco itself, including tar and carbon monoxide. In Jamaica, there is a comprehensive ban on smoking in indoor public places, indoor workplaces, and public transport. The law also prohibits smoking in several outdoor places and within 5 meters of entrances, exits, windows, and ventilation intakes of a public place, workplace, or public transport. You should know your right so you could continue living healthy.
Every 4 seconds, one person dies from using tobacco. That's 8 million deaths every year. With every death, the tobacco industry must find a replacement consumer in order to keep their business alive. Tobacco and related industries are moving at a rapid speed to launch newer products, such as e-cigarettes and heated tobacco products, and prey on children and adolescents through deceptive marketing tactics. The products may be new, but for some, these tactics have been used for decades. WHO knows all too well that as long as the tobacco industry is thriving, lives will continue to be lost too soon. Across the globe, illness caused by all forms of tobacco use and the exposure to secondhand smoke threatens people's quality of life and their livelihoods. Tobacco is a key risk factor for heart disease, stroke, cancer, chronic respiratory conditions, and diabetes, diseases which lead to 15 million premature deaths every year. Smokers are also at higher risk of severe COVID-19 outcomes and death. The health, economic, social, and environmental effects of the tobacco epidemic are devastating. But we are fighting back. The WHO Framework Convention on Tobacco Control was established to protect the health of current and future generations from the devastating effects of tobacco through a legally binding set of policies. WHO is working with partners across the globe to help countries implement the WHO FCTC on the ground. We do this by focusing on a subset of measures to help reduce the demand for tobacco, called Empower. Monitoring tobacco use and prevention policies. Protecting people from tobacco smoke, offering help to quit tobacco use, warning about the dangers of tobacco, enforcing bans on tobacco advertising, promotion and sponsorship, and raising taxes on tobacco. More than 5 billion people are now protected by at least one of these measures at the highest level of achievement, ensuring healthy lives and promoting well-being for all ages. But this is not all. WHO continues to work within and outside the health sector to protect vulnerable populations and the environment. WHO also monitors industry tactics, policy progress, and emergence of new products. Freedom from tobacco and nicotine makes for healthier societies, for healthier people, for generations to come. For more information, visit our website.
In the business report, BOJ expects inflation to continue above target range. We have that story plus your usual market update from Danita Rodney.
The Bank of Jamaica says it expects inflation to continue above its 4 to 6% target range. The Central Bank's Monetary Policy Committee says despite positive economic signs, the cost of goods will likely exceed the range up to the September 2023 quarter. This increase is expected to be driven by higher telephone and internet rates, the national minimum wage increase, seasonally higher agricultural prices, as well as pending increases in other regulated prices. Inflation is, however, expected to slow to the BOJ's target by the December 2023 quarter. Now for your market updates. In foreign exchange trading for Monday, July 3, the US dollar sold for an average of $155.16. The Canadian dollar ended trading at $117.90. The pound sterling traded for $195.75 and the euro sold for $168.20. In JSE trading, the JSE index declined by 2,896 points, the junior market index declined by 15 points, the combined market index declined by 2,842 points, and the All Jamaican Composite Index declined by 3,768 points. Overall market activity resulted from trading in 108 stocks, of which 37 advanced, 53 declined, and 18 traded firm. Stocks advanced for 138 Student Living Jamaica Limited Variable Preference, Barita Investments Limited, and Blue Power Group Limited. Stocks declined for Access Financial Services Limited, AMG Packaging and Paper Company Limited, and Cargo Handlers Limited. Trading firm were 138 Student Living Jamaica Limited, Apple Limited 7.50% preference shares due 2024, and G West Corporations Limited ordinary shares. The overall volume leaders were Future Energy Source Company Limited ordinary shares with over 6 million units, Trans-Jamaican Highway Limited with over 3 million units, and Dollar Financial Services Limited with over 2 million units. In regional stocks, in Trinidad and Tobago, zero securities traded. On the Barbados Stock Exchange, zero securities traded. In regional business, the Trinidad and Tobago Central Bank maintains the repo rate as a result of slower than expected economic recovery. More in this report.
Despite slower indicators of recovery than expected, the Central Bank's Monetary Policy Committee has opted to maintain the repo rate at 3.50%. In the MPC's monetary policy announcement for June 2023, the Central Bank says there were signs of a slow and steady recovery of the domestic economy in the first quarter of 2023. The MPC notes domestic inflation trended downward over the first 5 months of 2023, and the outlook is for continued moderation in headline inflation. However, the MPC notes that adverse weather could lead to some spikes in local food crop prices. The MPC agreed to hold the repo rate at the level it has stood at since March 2020, based on the widening of the negative TT-US interest rate differential and signs of a progressive decline in inflation domestically. It also considered a gradual economic recovery facilitated by credit that was expanding just above the pace of headline inflation. The next monetary policy announcement is scheduled for September 29, 2023.
In international business, Wall Street's main indexes ended with slim gains in a holiday-shortened session, helped by a surge in Tesla and strength in bank shares as the second half of the year kicked off on a subdued note.
U.S. stocks eked out thin gains in a holiday-shortened trading session on Monday, helped by a surge in Tesla and strength in bank shares. The Dow closed up fractionally, the S&P 500 gained just over 0.1%, and the Nasdaq added just over 0.2. Those marginal moves come after Wall Street's main indexes closed out a strong first half of the year on Friday, with the Nasdaq posting its biggest first-half gain in 40 years, rising nearly 32%. And money managers now are looking to gauge whether the rally continues or reverses course. Sam Stovall is Chief Investment Strategist at CFRA Research.
Well, what's going on today, I think, essentially is a carryover of the strong first half, with investors questioning, gee, is this really a running start into the second half, as history tells us, or are we being set up for a big disappointment? Well, my hunch is, because being a student of history, that usually if we have a strong first half, you have a lot of portfolio managers who are behind the curve. And if they want to either earn their bonus or keep their jobs, they've got to put the pedal to the metal. And I think that ends up pushing share prices higher.
Outsized gains for megacap stocks have led indexes, but recent signs have shown a broadening rally. Among individual movers, Tesla continued its blistering 2023 rally on Monday with a nearly 7% jump as the electric vehicle maker said it delivered a record number of vehicles in the second quarter. Shares of major banks gained after the companies raised dividends as they sailed through the Federal Reserve's annual health check. Wells Fargo shares rose 1.7%, Citigroup climbed 1.5%, while the S&P 500 Banks Index jumped 1.5%. Markets are closed Tuesday for the July 4th holiday.
In market data for oil prices ticked higher on Tuesday as markets weighed supply cuts for August by top exporters Saudi Arabia and Russia against a weak global economic outlook. Brent crude futures were up $1.28 to $75.93 a barrel, and West Texas Intermediate crude was at $71.05 a barrel, up $1.26. And that was the business report on PBCJ. I'm Danita Rodney.
In regional news, as Caricom leaders gather for their annual summit, they have been told concerns remain about peace and stability in Haiti. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres and Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, Keith Rowley, spoke to the issue at a joint press conference in Port of Spain on Monday. Peter Richards has the details.
UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres restated the call for the international community to help establish an international security force, noting the limited capacity of Caribbean and African countries in that regard.
I have come here from Haiti, where the security situation is rapidly deteriorating and humanitarian needs are soaring. I reiterate my call on all partners to increase support for Haiti's national police in the form of financing, training or equipment. And we must collectively do more to help the Haitian people chart a path towards elections and a political solution. But there can be no lasting security without strengthening democratic institutions, and there can be no strong democratic institutions without a drastic improvement of the security situation. That is why I have been advocating for the deployment of an international security force authorized by the Security Council and able to cooperate with the Haiti National Police to dismantle the gangs that have created this unprecedented violence. And I register the fact that both African and Caribbean countries have shown their availability to participate in this effort. And I appeal to those that have the capacity that is needed to do so to also volunteer themselves.
Guterres held talks with Trinidad and Tobago's Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley. He said it is important to examine seriously the arms trafficking situation in the region.
The question is not a question of the Security Council decision. The most important problem is that we need to have countries that have the robust kind of police force and the robust kind of equipment and logistic support to be able to also volunteer themselves. I've seen African countries volunteering. I've seen countries in the Caribbean volunteer, but most of them have limited capacity.
Rowley said that Caricom has been engaged with its neighbors, particularly Canada, on the Haitian situation.
I could mention on that particular subject, Caricom has been engaged with our neighbors, Canada in particular. It's a major item on the agenda and will be discussed. We've got, recently there was a meeting in Jamaica where the political leadership, the various groupings came out of Haiti to meet in Jamaica to decide what exactly they will support. And we're talking to African nations to help because we believe that the problem has gone beyond the region and wherever help can be had. So there's a lot to be said about Haiti, and by the time we get to the press conference after Caricom, you'll be better informed.
Caricom Secretary General Dr. Carl Barnett says any decision on an international force in Haiti will have to come from the Haitians themselves.
Trinidad and Tobago's Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley has highlighted the importance of the Caribbean community, Caricom, remaining relevant even 50 years after it came into being.
Speaking during the opening ceremony of the 54th meeting of the Caricom heads of government, Dr. Rowley noted that the region is now stronger than ever, having stood as one during the pandemic. He said the Caribbean community must continue to build and forge ahead for the region, noting that Caricom can only do so as a unified entity.
We cannot forget our past. We can see that our trajectory, though arduous at times, is one that will lead to a better future for all our people. We, as the leaders, must continue to do our part in contribution to this united journey And in doing so, we will ensure that the foundation laid by our founding fathers was not just a foundation for us, but also one for our children and for generations to follow. To do this, we must continue to have boundless faith in our destiny.
Dr. Rowley also hailed the founding fathers of Caricom for the signing of the Treaty of Chaguaramas on July 4, 1973. He said such an agreement has ensured that the region is strong and unified and may have remained small on the world stage, but not insignificant.
Those early steps taken in Chaguaramas have led us far beyond what the naysayers and doomsayers were certain would have been a short lifespan and another disastrous shattering. But here we are today, 50 years on, side by side, in mutual solidarity, regard, respect, and esteem. Strong, committed, and unified. Together, this regional family of nations can examine with pride our achievements during the last half-century. We have faced many challenges and have risen to overcome them.
Guyana is undergoing a major transformation in several key areas to build a world service sector. More in this report.
During an engagement with the Guyanese diaspora in Canada, where he discussed Guyana's development and numerous investment opportunities, President Ali said this move ties into government's intention of building and marketing Guyana as its unique brand. He underscored that a world-class service sector will require the modernization of Guyana's records management system, using biometrics and electronic identification cards and passports, among other e-management systems.
We have to now utilize the technology that is available to move us quickly up the chain, as expensive as it is. We have to transfer everything that we have learned to do all our lives onto the electronic platform.
To that end, Guyana has implemented the single-window construction permitting system, and other single-window system to remove human bias, reduce bureaucracy, and increase transparency for greater efficiency.
We are now not only making the investment, but making the legislative changes to allow this to happen. We have to now embrace robotics. This is part of developing a world-class services sector. Going to robotics, electronic data management system, technology, a paperless system.
The administration is also investing heavily in human capital through the modernization and reconstruction of several schools across the country, introducing new subjects such as Spanish and coding to young learners to build human capital.
We also have to ensure in the services sector that we are training the people. We have the human resources for training. That is why we are now building a state-of-the-art hospitality institute. We are spending $120 million with Exxon to develop a national skills training center. So not only are we going to train our people, but we are going to train them to be the best there is in the industry.
In international news, China is restricting exports of raw materials used to manufacture semiconductors and solar panels. It follows similar moves by the United States and Netherlands. Al Jazeera's Katrina Yu reports.
Most people may not be familiar with gallium or germanium, but these metals are crucial for the development of products such as semiconductors, solar panels, electric vehicles, and smartphones. China is the world's biggest supplier of these raw materials, and their export will soon be controlled. From the beginning of August, firms will need to apply for permits and supply information about their intended use to gain access. Beijing says the new restriction will protect China's national security.
China has always been committed to maintaining the security and stability of the global production and supply chain. It's a common international practice for the Chinese government to impose export controls on relevant items in accordance with the law, without targeting any specific country.
The move is expected to disrupt global supply chains and is being seen as a response to wide-ranging high-tech export controls imposed on Chinese technology firms by the United States. It also comes days after the Dutch government imposed similar restrictions on the sale of crucial chip-making equipment. The US and the Netherlands are among major importers of Chinese gallium and germanium.
I think the first audience, of course, are those who are making these kinds of decisions, which is to say, look, everybody holds cards and we can all play this game.
The cost of these raw materials has surged, though South Korea and Taiwan have downplayed the impact of the regulation on their firms. Some analysts fear this move will provoke further similar measures between Beijing and Washington. During his visit to Beijing last month, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken defended U.S. controls as security-related and denied Washington was trying to contain China. Beijing has accused the U.S. of encirclement and suppression.
U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen is expected in Beijing this week for a trip aimed at further stabilizing deteriorating ties. Trade and economic cooperation are atop the agenda, and it's likely Beijing will use the control of gallium and germanium as a bargaining chip in its negotiations. Katrina Hu, Al Jazeera, Beijing.
To Thailand now, with the newly elected.
3 civil rights groups filed a complaint against Harvard, claiming its preferential policy for applicants with family ties to the school overwhelmingly benefits white students, days after the Supreme Court struck down race-conscious admission policies.
Harvard's legacy admissions policy is being challenged just days after the Supreme Court struck down its race-conscious admissions policies. 3 civil rights groups Monday filed a complaint against the university with the U.S. Department of Education. They claim the school's preferential policy for undergraduate applicants with family ties to the elite institution overwhelmingly benefits white students, and that it violates federal law banning race discrimination for programs that receive federal funds. Harvard did not immediately respond to a request for comment. Just last week, the Supreme Court said the race-conscious policies adopted by Harvard University and the University of North Carolina to ensure that more non-white students are admitted are unconstitutional. The groups in Monday's complaint said the ruling made it even more imperative to eliminate policies that disadvantage non-white applicants. According to the complaint, nearly 70% of Harvard applicants with family ties to donors or alumni are white and are about 6 times more likely to be admitted than other applicants. About 28% of Harvard's class of 2019 were legacies, according to the civil rights groups, which claimed fewer admission slots were available for non-white applicants who are far less likely to have family ties to the school. The groups are asking the Department of Education to investigate Harvard's admissions practices and order the school to abandon legacy preferences if it wants to continue receiving federal funding.
In sports, the region's best under-19 women's cricketers will assemble in Trinidad for the 2nd annual Cricket West Indies Rising Stars Women's Under-19 Championship, starting July 4. The competition will witness 6 teams from Barbados, Guyana, Jamaica, Leeward Islands, Trinidad and Tobago, and Windward Islands in 30-over matches, which will be played at the National Cricket Centre, US Sports and Physical Education Centre, and Gilbert Park Cricket Ground. This tournament serves as a pivotal platform for showcasing and identifying talent. West Indies men will tour England in the summer of 2024, where they will play 3 test matches. The series will bowl off at Lord's July 10 to 14, followed by a 2nd test at Trent Bridge on July 18 to 22, and a final contest at Edgbaston on July 26 to July 30. The tour will mark the 2nd occasion that the 2 teams will compete for Richards Botham Trophy, named in honor of cricket icons Sir Vivian Richards and Lord Ian Botham. West Indies are the current holders, having won the inaugural series, which was played in the Caribbean in March 2022. And that's the news on PBCJ. You can follow us on our social media platforms at PBCJamaica. Thanks for watching.